Trying something new? Then don't be surprised when there's pushback. Friction ain't fiction. It's a real part of life, but that's where the best learning happens. Facing friction with conviction. That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I am truly honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast. This is a program designed for anyone, everyone, and anybody else who is involved in education. They teach, they coach, they guide, they provide the support services, they make the facility so much better, they drive the bus, they run the library, they take care of the finances, they're on the board. Doesn't matter. If you're a part of a school system, a school district, whatever the collection is, we're thankful for you. We're very, very thankful for you because you contribute to the lives of other people. You get to pour into them. You get to make a difference. You get to inspire and to give them a way forward. And that's the cool thing about educators, because it's not just doing a job, it's changing lives. It's giving a new way forward. So thank you for all that you do and your contribution to that work. It takes a vision. It takes a people. It takes people who really have not only the qualifications and the credentials, but they have a love for people. They have a love for the work, and they see it especially as a calling to make a difference, a calling to find a way to inspire others. And this is a very special program, by the way. This is our Sesquicentennial, right? Our 150th episode of the Educators Among Us podcast. And we're in it to win it. We're going to finish and we're going to make sure that we're here and walking this journey with you because you make a difference, and we want to be there for you just to give you that extra perspective and maybe some food for thought, and maybe even some provocation to continue your work, to step it up, to continue to grow as one who makes such a difference in the lives of other people. We especially love to speak into the lives of those who are leaders of educators, who have to lead out in front, and serve as the face of the school sometimes, and making those hard decisions. And this particular time of year, there's a lot of things that are happening as we're continuing to deliver a wonderful experience to finish the current year as well as getting ready for next year. It gets really complicated. There's a lot of things that are going on, and so we continue to lift you up and make sure that someone's here with you and walking the journey and providing some resources and tools and other things that will help make your pathway just a little bit easier, because we are going to run into friction. We're going to hit those things that want to sometimes slow us down, and I've learned from Tammy and from others that sometimes I have to plan more carefully to anticipate those points of friction. Sometimes they come and I'd planned the perfect day, but it required everything to go perfectly. No little glitches, no points of friction. And that doesn't normally happen. There's always going to be something, a conflict with either expectations or how long it's going to take to do something, or other people's contribution to the work, and it kind of is tied to a scope and sequence, a dependency, and that didn't work out, and it's like, oh man, and so we have to be willing to understand that friction is a part of it, right? It's like Peter Drucker once said, only 3 things happen naturally in organizations. And I have found this to be especially true in schools, right? Only 3 things happen naturally in organizations: friction, number 1, confusion, and underperformance, right? Friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. Those are going to happen on their own. right? Friction, confusion, underperformance, they're just going to happen just because of human nature, just because of the way things work. Leadership requires being able to overcome those tendencies, to overcome the friction. And because we know friction ain't fiction. It's not just made up. Friction is real. It's really valuable. I mean, some friction causes us to slow down. When you have to hit the brakes, you want friction. You want to slow down. You want to decrease speed quickly because the light has changed or somebody stopped or something else is going on. Got to stop, right? Sometimes friction is really tragic. We've seen sometimes people that dig in their heels and they create friction in the organization and create a lot of dysfunctional behavior, but just because of ill will or sometimes just laziness or other reasons, right? Sometimes friction can be tragic. Sometimes it's actually educational. It can be really educational. It teaches you something. You go, I didn't anticipate that. I didn't realize that. And so we learn and we grow. And sometimes we see opportunities to innovate because of friction, right? The stone is polished with friction, right? Sometimes if you know a tumbler, that stone, a stone that can look pretty gnarly before, can be transformed. If you've ever seen anybody who has one of those tumblers, it'll run and run and with the right grit and the right things that are in place, the right timing, right? It's amazing what can happen. And so we have to know that, as we are in the trials that test our faith, right? We sometimes have to go through those trials and reveal a deeper reservoir of strength. I mean, we find something deep inside that we didn't know was there because we hit that friction. We had to fight through and having that ability, right? Having that ability is so important for such a time as this. I mean, we're in a time when we are going to experience significant changes. And if you've hung around educators enough, you know that we're not exactly fond of change sometimes. There are some that are, but for the most part, there's not exactly an enthusiasm for change. And so it can really feel like friction against what we want to do because that's the way we've always done it. But we're going to have to dig deep. We're going to have to find new abilities to solve problems like we have never seen before. Friction is one of those mixed blessings. It can slow us down. It can make us better. It can teach patience and skills while also neutralizing those who dare to lead change. You see, we've also seen sometimes negative consequences of friction, but absent friction, we tend to become complacent. We bend into complacency that it excuses. It actually abuses excuses and it can kill the will, right? Friction has consequences. Great geniuses, said Heinrich Heine, great geniuses take shape by contact with another great genius, but less by assimilation than by friction. Right? In other words, we make each other better most often through those points of friction. Now, we've seen way too many courageous education leaders who have been battered for their conviction, right? I mean, beaten down because they took a chance. They made some hard calls. Sometimes they had to change people or they had to change systems or they had to communicate some hard news. And they paid a price. They paid a high price for fighting that friction. But that's a risk. That's a risk that real leaders endure to take people where they need to go rather than just managing them where they are in their addiction to status quo. Leaders, you see, have to lead, and they do so even sometimes at their own peril. They have to sometimes fight the friction that gains the upper hand. Hey, listen, no one escapes the friction of personalities. priorities, practices, and power. And yet, the best will do it again. They'll get back in the ring. They'll get back and fight against that out of their conviction and refusal to cower. They don't give in to the power, right? We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character, that produces hope. That's from Romans 5:3-4, right? We rejoice in our sufferings. We rejoice in the friction because we know that we're able to develop a whole new level of endurance and character and hope. That's a worthwhile endeavor. Creative, intelligent people can use the friction produced when people say no. They can use it to provoke productive conflict that leads to greater results for the greater good. They're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it because they see the opportunities. They see how things can change, and they're willing to challenge that status quo, that inclination to mediocrity, that inclination to our comfort zone. It takes friction to get beyond our set beliefs, those narratives that hold us back, that bound our imagination. Friction is the tax paid to move forward on the journey to become our purpose. It is the only way to become excellent personally and organizationally. Friction is the tax. So plan for it. Adjust to it. Use it. Actually use the difficulty of the friction to generate more constructive, productive energy. It's all up to you, right? Anyone can choose to convert that negative friction sometimes into positive energy. It's a choice. It takes a lot of work. It's not a casual choice, but it can be done. And that turns out to be a distinguishing characteristic of highly effective educators. Embrace the grind, because that friction is the very force that is capable of transforming our unknown potential into unstoppable forward momentum. Embrace the grind. It's part of the journey. So use the friction this week, my friend, to ignite your spirit, to seize the opportunity and soar. That's the path. That's how you get to where you could be. It's how you become what you were created to be, is to use the friction and embrace the grind, right? We can do it. You can do it. Converting that energy of friction into energy of innovation that can power your perspective. And we're thankful for those that they make those choices. You know them. As a matter of fact, you know the educators that have most impacted your life. Guarantee they had to fight the friction. They had to endure it. They had to use it and turn it into something that was positive. It's distinctive of highly effective educators and just people who know how to find that joy anyway. They have that love, that passion for the work that is quite inspiring and makes a difference in your life as well. A coaching question to consider as you go through each day. Did I do my best to face friction with conviction? Did I do my best to face friction with conviction today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.